Hello, welcome back to Crush 'em TV. Remember, if you enjoyed the discussion, to hit like and subscribe. We've got some really bad news here. We've got 7 officers shot down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And you may have seen earlier tonight they had 6 between Florida and Pennsylvania. The 2 down in Florida were definitely ambushed, is where they're leaning. Pennsylvania, it looks like it's likely. Here in Baton Rouge, this was apparently right outside of the headquarters, and the officer that you're about to see in the video compares it to Dallas. However, he's going to say some things that may make you shake your head.
3 police officers have been killed today in Baton Rouge in what's been described as an ambush on those officers. More on that part of the story in a moment. 4 are injured, a total of 7. 7 police officers. I want to bring in now Steve Loomis, detective with the Cleveland Police Department and the president of the Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association.
And 13
Steve,
today.
before we get to you, I want to kind of set the scene here. We're in Cleveland for the Republican National Convention, and it has been your task to make sure that people coming here at this venue and all throughout the city are safe. So I first want to get your thoughts on what's happening in Baton Rouge and then how it might affect here. You're with us?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. Absolutely heart-wrenching watching what's going on in Baton Rouge right now, and the reasonings behind it. You know, this all began, the Dallas police officers being ambushed and murdered. Now in Baton Rouge, it looks like that's the same thing. This all began with a 911 call from an African-American male saying that another African-American male was pointing a gun at him. Those officers responded. That male didn't comply and tragically ended up losing his life over that with a gun in his pocket. This is how this began. The President of the United States validated the false narrative and the nonsense that Black Lives Matter and the media are pressing out there to the public, validated it with his very divisive statements, and now we see an escalation. This has got to end. We need some leadership in this country to come forward and put an end to this. I don't care if it's clergy, I don't care who it is, but somebody's got to step up and put an end to this, because it's the false narrative and very influential people that are politicizing the false narrative. Absolutely insane that we have a president of the United States and a governor of Minnesota making a statement that they made less than 1 day after those police-involved shootings. And those police-involved shootings, make no mistake, are what absolutely has triggered this rash of senseless murders of law enforcement officers across this country. It is reprehensible. And the President of the United States has blood on his hands, and it will not be able to come washed off.
Now, right there, I feel for what they're going through. But I do not understand that guy's point of view. How in the hell is he blaming that on Trump, saying he mentioned BLM, and then he said the narrative that was out there. Well, what Trump said about BLM was that they were getting violent. If he's talking back to Charlottesville, was that Antifa and BLM that were there also got violent. Trying to get what they wanted, they got violent as well. As just like the Nazis did. That everybody there was all being bad, and they were all smacking and hitting each other, and they were all guilty. And some people did not want to accept the fact that everybody there was guilty of being violent. And then he turns around and says that these guys, who may very well be with BLM or Antifa, could be either one, that Trump is somehow responsible for them acting up and doing exactly what he said. That the logic in that doesn't make any damn sense. You know, he called them out for being violent and doing things that aren't right. Them, if that's actually their motive, them attacking the cops proves them right. It doesn't prove him wrong. Saying that Trump has blood on his hands because some other asshole picked up a gun and did something, that's bullshit. You know, and none of that is the reason why. The reason why these cops have been shot, these 13 cops all in one day, it's just a few days after the crap in Charlotte, because now they suddenly start taking down all these statues. Now these two groups that are violent see, oh look, we got our way. We acted like terrorists, we tore shit down, we're destroying streets, we're attacking statues, and we got our way. So what do? They use more violence. That's why those cops got shot. It's not because Trump called them out. It's because of the mayors and the governors and the people with no backbone that are taking down the statues instead of putting it up to public vote. And they're doing it under cover of night when it's hidden. So BLM and Antifa and any other person with a violent ilk that has a problem with authority, with cops, with government, they're all emboldened now due to the government giving them their way but they got their way through violence on the statues. So now that's the path the government has shown them. You get your way, you get what you want through violence. That is what the states have shown them. You can't blame that on Trump. Trump ain't out there removing the statues. He's not the one that did it. That's Virginia. That's Maryland. That's Baltimore. That's Kentucky. That's all these different little locales that are taking out the statues. That's who you blame. That officer down there in Louisiana, I know he's upset, but he's blaming the wrong guy. He needs to be pointing the finger at all those states and all those governors and all those people that are taking down those things by letting people that committed violence get their way, because now they've shown everybody else that has that same inkling in their mind that that is the path to get what you want, and now you have 13 dead cops. And that pisses me off. I mean, I've got family that does that kind of stuff for a living. I got friends that do that kind of stuff for a living. Our own PD here in San Antonio, every one of them I've ever met, they're all great guys. And their jobs get harder every day because of spineless politicians that make crap like this happen. And then they want to try and push it on the president, on Trump, and try and blame him and try and say it's his fault. No, he's not the one that gave in to him. He tried to stand up. The spineless assholes that gave in to him, that said, yeah, violence is how you get your way, they're the ones that you ought to be pointing that finger at. So you want to blame somebody? You blame the governor of Virginia, mayor of Baltimore, mayor of Charlottesville, and every other little state and city that they've agreed to do that to, instead of putting it to a public vote. You may think those two issues are unrelated, but they're not. Because they showed them the path to getting your way was violence. And now, violence on other things, now they're acting out against what they see as the authority figure in their local neighborhood that they run into the most. This all relates back to Charlottesville. If you can't see that, you got to be about as dumb as a friggin' rock. They need to change what they're doing. They need to stop removing the statues. They need to come down on BLM. They need to come down on Antifa. They need to come down on the supremacists. Come down on anybody that tries to get what they want through violence. I don't care what color they are, if they're pink and purple. Throw their butt in jail. Bring the hammer down. Peaceful protest is one thing. But violence, what they've been doing, We need to push our government to stop what they're doing, put all that stuff to a vote. That'll bring that violence to an end. Stop letting them get their way through violence. Treat them like the terrorists they are. Hopefully no more officers will have to pay with their lives for the stupidity of governors and mayors that have no backbone or do what they do out of their own racist motivations. Hope y'all stay safe. Pretty soon we may all need to be taking cover.